Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Another episode of the CSFL podcast. Here at the halfway mark of the season, we're getting through. And for anyone who has followed the previous seasons of the CSFL podcast, at the halfway mark, we'd like to do something called a buy and sell episode, where we go through a couple of different teams that we think worth sort of buying and on the up, and teams that we think possibly are on the down for the rest of the season. As always, I'm joined by co-host Josh of the Titans general manager. Josh, are you ready and prepared to go through some of the different teams at the halfway mark of this season?
Yep, I'm ready. I'm looking forward to it. I think that we've got enough data on our hands that we should be able to go ahead and make some good selections and picks and buys and sells.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an interesting time to do it. Just a couple of sims before the trade deadline is upon us. So, obviously things could drastically change by then. We don't know. But yeah, as you said, we've got enough data to probably look at it. Do we want to start this episode off with a team that's on the up and a buy, or do we want to start with a team that's possibly on a downward start of the season into a sell and maybe looking towards the off season more?
I think we should start with the lower end and work our way up, so we can give the better teams a reason to stick around for the entire podcast.
Yeah. Okay then. I've got my list here, and I'll tell you before we start. I've got 4 teams on my buy list and 3 teams on my sell list. I don't know how many you've got. But I'm happy for you to kick off then with the team that you're selling on at the halfway mark of the season.
Okay, so give me just a second, trying to pull my list back up. All right, there we go. So call me crazy, but I am selling on the Ravens. I think that they have a lot of injuries, and I'm kind of waiting for them to catch up with them. And if you look at all the really good teams in the league, they're points. They don't score a lot. Yeah, they do hold teams to an extremely low amount of points, but I just can't help but wonder how that's going to pan out for them in the playoffs. And yeah, that's kind of where I am with that. Was I just starting with one team, or did you want me to list all 4 of the ones I was selling on?
No, let's go team by team.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I kind of understand. They weren't on my list, the Ravens. So I didn't notice the number of injuries they've got. So that's probably a fair point. So it's been the story of the Ravens ever since the CSFL started. Actually, they've just had horrendous injury luck, haven't they? Really. It's mainly been around.
They lost Flacco at one point.
Yeah, they've lost Flacco, I think, twice, a couple of seasons in a row. So I mean, they've been incredibly unlucky, and just looking at it now on the screen, they are struggling. I mean, yeah, I can see the point on the offensive side. I mean, they have managed to put up plus over 20 points in their past 2 games, which is promising. So maybe they're turning it around, but yeah, I can understand why, because the injury log here, it's not just injuries, but it's injuries to probably quite key players like O'Hare and Landry and Williams and co, and even the kickers out. I mean, how unlucky is that the roll of the dice has managed the kickers out to team rule violations?
I thought when he came onto the chat and told us about that one, I honestly thought he was playing. I did not think that could be serious.
That's just incredibly unlucky. I guess they're 5-2. They're top of what is a very competitive American North this year. Where do you see the Ravens playing out then? Do you think they'll hang on and still get a playoff slot or a wild card slot, or do you see them dropping out of the playoffs just because of the backlog of injuries and what you've said is probably quite a sticky offense that they've had so far this season?
So the reason I wanted to start with them is because while I am selling on them, I do still think they'll make the playoffs. So it was kind of a weird one, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and get that one out the way. I do think they'll make the playoffs because that division is just playing so poorly right now compared to the rest of the AFC. I think that a 1 or 2 game buffer might be enough for them to hold on, barring any knock on wood more injuries to anyone else important on their roster. So I do think that they will definitely make the playoffs. But I look at the AFC and we have a lot of high-powered offenses that are gearing towards the playoffs. Pull my standings back up so I can look at some of them. But I mean, just right offhand, my Titans have we've dropped about 225 points on teams. The Broncos have dropped 239. We also have the Jaguars, who are actually doing much better on offense, even though they've got some injuries now, but they were starting to finally peak a little bit. The Jets are almost at over 200 points. So, they're going to see some offenses that have defenses that aren't too far off from theirs, because, they're holding teams to, I think, 82 points against, but I'm at 101. The Jaguars are at 111. The Jets are at 107. The Broncos are at 83. So they're just as good.
Yeah,
so I'm just kind of wondering, depending on the matchups, I think that they may be a team that it's a regular season performer, but a playoff, no.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because I think we've seen historically in the league that teams who are good on one side of the ball but average on the other side of the ball get really unstuck in the playoffs, as you've pointed out. And it's really interesting because the Ravens, the one thing I would say to the Ravens is that offense is not as bad as it actually looks on paper. If you actually look at the stats, just on the ranking stats, so just at a very high level, rushing the ball, they're very, very good at. They have obviously an excellent rushing offense. It's passing the ball they struggle so much with. And I don't know whether that's just due to poor wide receivers, possibly outside of Bolden, maybe the reason that guys are not getting open. I don't know what the issue is there, but that would be the one thing I would, if I was the Ravens going into deadline day, I'd be looking to try and upgrade that receiving line, because that might just nudge them over the top in terms of securing that playoff spot.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure either. I guess if I had to pick something to guess, I would say it's wide receiver as well. And, there's some other teams in the league who are, middling teams who do have maybe the number 2 quality, not too many number 1 quality wide receivers are on the market right now. But there's a few number 2. There's a few number 2 quality wide receivers that could probably pulled from like I don't want to say, I don't know what these teams are doing, but I'm just going to throw some random ones out. Maybe a Seattle might be willing, at this point, or maybe I think New York and Atlanta have both openly said that they're on the market. So that means Calvin Johnson's out there. If you want to go big or go home, you can always make a trade for Calvin Johnson.
So, the Rams wide receiving core, just off the top of my head, they're 3 and 4, so they might not be considering it yet. But that they've got a couple of guys there that possibly could upgrade that Ravens receiving line. Certainly.
Exactly. I personally wouldn't give up at 3 and 4, but you never know, what other people are, taking a look around the league and deciding when they're going to cut their losses. But the point is that I think I'm selling on them because I'm just the injuries, the teams that they may potentially play in the playoffs. I think that they're just I guess I'd say like a cubic zirconia, man. It looks really pretty, it's almost like a diamond, but unless you get it checked, it may not, it may pass the eye test, but there's something lurking there.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that certainly for the Ravens. So who else have you got on your sell list, or do you want me to throw one out there?
We'll go back and forth. So you can go ahead and do one of yours.
Okay, I'm going to throw one out there that's very similar, and I've put this name down here. I have to say before the sim that occurred yesterday. So. I put the Carolina Panthers down as a sell team, and this seems crazy now looking at this. At 6-2, they've just beaten the Saints back to back in both their matchups. But the reason I've got them down here is similar to what you said, but the other way around, in the sense that I think the Panthers' offense is very, very good. Really efficient, good on both things. Probably should be more efficient than they actually are at the minute. But it's on the defensive side of the ball that I'm really worried about this team, because they are middling defense and they come up against some really good offensive teams in that conference, and that's what worries me.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. I'm looking at them now that you've mentioned it, and that 148 points that they've given up. That's, other than the Cardinals, that's the most of every single division leader by quite a bit. The Cardinals are leading they've given up, over 160 points, but, Panthers are coming in right at 48. And then the next closest team is, the Washington football team, which is all the way at 124. And then the next closest after that, you're barely hitting 100. There'd be the Chiefs at 113. So, they have an excellent offense. And I agree with you. I think it's underperforming that their offensive line is probably, first or second in the league right now. So they could probably be closer to 250, which is, I feel it's crazy to say, but it's probably true. They could probably be closer to 240, 250 points.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they've recognised that, and with the recent trade to bring in Roll at, I think it was Roll they brought in at free safety. Was the recent one. So they are trying to address that before the deadline. And I think that would be the one thing that would stop this Panthers team from going all the way potentially is that defense. So for me, I'm selling because I just think if I look at their remaining games, I still think the Saints are going to peg them back and take that division. If you look at the games they've got the Packers, the Dolphins, the Jets. That's the set of three from week 13 to week 15. I think they might end up losing one game out of that, and that will probably bring the Saints back up above them in terms of record. So I can see them slipping up is what I'm saying. So that's why I'm kind of selling on the Panthers.
Okay. So I guess that puts it back on me.
Yeah, back to you.
Okay, so this is a team that you and I actually thought was going to do really good. I think in our original pod, and I think part of it is because I think he came on and said that the GM had computer issues, so they haven't been around as much. But we're gonna play this we're gonna pretend this is a real NFL season, and we're just doing going off, you are what your record are you are what your record is I think it was Parcells said. So the Dallas Cowboys sitting at 2-5. We picked them to go. I think we both picked them to make the playoffs or even possibly win that division, and they're 2-5. So got to sell them. I'm just, I'm thoroughly shocked at the amount of points they put up per game. 91. A team with Tony Romo is only putting up 91 points per game.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a bit of a car crash season for Dallas, unfortunately.
Yeah, they are last in yards per game, last in passing yards. 27th in passing yards and last in rushing yards. Yeah.
I don't know what it's down to. I can't say I've followed the Cowboys too much, really. But I mean, when we compared last season, the reason I think we were hyped on Dallas this season was because they made some fantastic trades in the offseason. Yep. And you look at this roster, it's probably one of the most talented rosters in the conference. You're thinking comfortable division lead against some of the other teams that are, possibly rebuilding or having other challenges.
You got Tony Romo, Jason Witten, Rondé Barber, Felix Jones, Julius Peppers, DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller. I mean,
it's a Hall of Fame. It's a Hall of Fame roster. Some of these guys,
right?
I don't know.
And the reason that I kind of picked him is because even with him out, I'm astonished that the AI can only put up 91 points per game. This offense is incredibly high powered. I hadn't even mentioned Miles Austin yet, and they have an incredible center. There are other offensive linemen, are good, but this is enough that they should be putting up. They should have been compared to the rest of the league, they should be middle of the pack, slightly higher than average at the very least.
I don't know. I would have to look at the Cowboys in more detail to work out what's going on. But on paper, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. And we'll see. I mean, maybe it's one of these where they'll bring it back next season and it'll all click and they'll win 13 games. That's where I kind of see the Cowboys should be going.
Kind of shows you the value of an active GM.
Yeah, it does. It certainly does. So I've moved on to a team that I've got next. Okay. So it's a team that I've we probably, I think, again on the original pod, I think we said had a good outside chance of making a wild card place this year, and that was the Houston Texans. I think said that we liked, we obviously, getting Andrew Luck was an amazing, not steal, but an amazing trade
Yeah.
/ draft pick in the offseason. They addressed some of the line. They brought in for Necker because the Saints had to cut him essentially. Brought him in for pretty much nothing. And on paper, this team was starting to take some shape. Probably not a playoff team, securing a division, but a wild card. But at 2-6, they haven't looked efficient at all. And Andrew Luck is having a very difficult first season in the league.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I don't know exactly what happened or what was done to kind of put him in a position that he's in right now, but it's a position of underperformance and it's kind of bringing the whole team down. But at the same time, I doubt their GM's terribly upset because if I believe they have pretty good picks next year too. So this might be one of those 2-year rebuilds. And then, next season, I'm wondering why I'm looking up at everyone else in the division. So,
possibly, yeah. I mean, they've got 2 first-round picks this season. They've obviously got yours in a trade, and they've got their own. So at the end of the day, it's not drastically terrible for someone like the Houston Texans. But I mean, I just thought they would be better. If what I'm saying, I would have expected them to probably be like the Colts, around 4-4 at this point, rather than a 2-6 team. So that's why I'm selling them.
No, I think that's a good sell, and I go with you on that one. We both kind of looked at the roster and saw what we saw on paper and went with the hype, and that's another one of those that, in retrospect, we did not do a good job predicting that one.
No, we certainly did. We didn't do that a good job with that one, or a good job with the Cowboys, it seems. So, who else have you got on your sell list?
Okay, one of them's a team that's overperforming right now, and it's really impressive that they're actually able to do this because I would never have thought that they'd be 4-3 right now. But that's the Buffalo Bills. I am definitely not buying this start. I'm selling it, but I'm still impressed by it. That should give their GM a lot of hope into the future. Kind of looking at that roster that everyone thought was just going to be horrendous. It's 4-3, so that somehow, some way that roster is capable of performing. And honestly, I think that I think it's Tim Tebow. I think that he is just a few arm talent points away from being a real problem, from being a real big problem for the league. So I'm pretty impressed. I think that this is with them not having their starting running back. This is with them having their probably their second best on paper wide receiver injured as well because of fatigue. I think that I've kind of been suspecting this. I'm not sure, and maybe he'll confirm it in the chat. I think that he's been running really strong training because he knows that there's not really much that he gets to control this year other than a few things. So I think that that's why his injuries are so high. But again, that might pay dividends next season too because a lot of this roster is cap locked in. So he'll be able to bring back a lot of this talent that he's spent the year developing, and maybe this 4-3 start won't be sold on next year. Maybe it'll be a 4-3 start that has the whole league going, whoa, look at Buffalo. So,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when he joined the Bills GM, he was very much, he traded for Tebow, and people said he was absolutely mad for trading for Tebow from the Broncos. I think he traded a first-round pick possibly for him. And he hasn't really had a chance because of the playbook scandal to actually put his own stamp on the team really this year. He's made some bold moves. He brought in Beeson, I believe, in the offseason, another expiring linebacker who's an elite linebacker. And the team, they've had some interesting results. I think, beating the Steelers and the Patriots are probably the two that I would say are the surprising ones, just because, the Patriots and Steelers are pretty talented teams in their own right.
yeah.
So 4-3. I mean, without being able to control the playbook is pretty impressive. Just controlling it on roster transactions and depth chart is certainly something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, no, I'm completely agreeing on that. I think that that's one of the more impressive GMing jobs. And honestly, this is one of those times where he might actually, because even with what happened, he might get a look for GM of the year because he literally built a team that the AI is, coaching for him. This is purely a GM job, and he's managed to get this team above 500. I don't know. I just don't have anything else to say about it. I just think it's really impressive.
No.
Maybe
I
it's
think,
luck.
yeah, I think I agree with you, and it's one that I would say you probably would sell now, and then you'd probably buy again in the off season, knowing
Yeah.
that he's done this job just on GMing, and then next year he's gonna, be in a new. We'll obviously be in the new engine, but he'll be able to put his playbook in and stamp his team down. Really see it, and I would be interested if we ever had odds in CSFL or in Draft Day Sports Pro Football for division titles. It'd be really interesting to see what the Bills division title odds would be next year if you bought them in the just as the season closed before the off season, because that could be a really sound bet for anyone, I think.
Yeah. No, I agree as well. So, that's, I don't know, this has really caught my eye. And I think that, in a season where he's probably not paying as much attention because, some of, the things that happen, I just wanted to go ahead and give him a shout out and let him know that hey, it is noticed that, the Bills are 4-3 and they've knocked off, some actually decent teams. So,
Yeah. No, I agree. And then, so I think my final sell
okay.
is a team that if we switch back over, similar record, surprising record, I would say is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 4-3 as well. So I originally had a different team down, but looking at it after Thursday, I changed this to Tampa Bay. Again, I'm surprised by how well they've been doing. Not because they don't have talent on this roster. I was actually surprised at how much talent they've managed to acquire on this roster. But to be 4-3 and some of the wins they've had, so they obviously beat the Falcons twice, beat the Seahawks, and then they beat the 49ers, who 49ers I would have expected to be in the playoff hunt this year, and they're not. But when I look at some of the games they've got coming up, they've kind of had the easier part of their schedule. So they've still got to play the Saints, the Jets, the Cardinals, the Saints again, the Patriots, Washington. These are teams that are all going to be in the playoff hunt. So I can see them fading away from that 4-3 record and probably ending up in a 0.500, just below possibly by the end of the season. But it's still great progress, I will say, for Tampa Bay and their GM, Flaming Homer. They've made great progress since the start of the CSFL. So, just to go from a team that was, I think, 1-15 or, had won a couple of games to being in this position now is a great achievement in its own right.
Yeah. Definitely. So, looking back at the season, we kind of all looked at Tampa Bay during free agency and everything and that, and we kind of, I feel like the consensus was we kind of just were like, we don't know what they're doing. We just hope that the team improves. So I'm completely with you in that it should, in addition to the way the Bills got a shout out, even though, we're selling on them, they should also still be celebrated for playing a lot better than anyone initially thought or projected them to. So definitely shout out to Flaming, I think it's Flaming Homer.
Yeah, and I mean, the two teams that I think will be on the up and on an upward projection, but this year it's just not their year.
And it's funny because I've kind of always looked at Josh Freeman's ratings and kind of wondered, like, he's like a slower, better throwing version of Vince, and just kind of wondered, which team was going to pick him up one day and kind of figure him out in the same ways that I've kind of like started mitigating my guys' interceptions. And I think that Tampa Bay, he's only 25. Tampa Bay's, you've got a quarterback of the future. I think he's kind of proved that he could do it. Like his pass interception ratio is only 9-5 right now, but this team's gonna improve by the time he's 30, and he's on a 3-year contract making 11 mil, which is 11 mils, pretty decent, pretty nice for a quarterback that's at 87 overall.
Yeah,
I think I think quarterback's one of the few positions where the overall rating is actually pretty accurate. So I think I don't know. I think they're Why you sell on them, obviously because they're not a team that's going to win a Super Bowl. That might be another one where you might want to in the offseason buy this stock because it's about to blow up.
Yeah, and I mean on Freeman, he's just to say that he's on course to probably set the most number of yards he's ever thrown or passed in a season. He's also on course probably to have his best ever season in terms of getting touchdowns, which is it shows how the team's developed. And he's pretty close to his all-time best in terms of actual percentage as well. So, upward trajectory. So,
I think, there's another stat that, if you just went down just a little bit more that I think summarizes what you said perfectly. His career average in quarterback rating has been a 69, and he's at an 87.
Yeah, exactly. So that just shows the boost in people around him probably and his own performance. So, certainly.
And this is why, I love football because, it's not football really is a every player on the field contributes type of sport because, look at the massive leap the Jaguars made this year just from finally plugging 2 holes in their offensive line. And, sad to say, look at their last 2 losses when those 2 holes in the offensive line went down. It was the difference between Griffin being and, a borderline, I'm about to step into the elites of quarterbacks back to I'm, fumbling and throwing interceptions because I'm getting sacked every other play. So, the rest of the team really matters. And Tampa Bay improved everything around Josh Freeman. And, I think that they can definitely make another step next season. I love how our league's got a lot of parity going.
Yeah, it has. It's the league parity is definitely tighter this year in general. So that's all of my sell teams. Do you have any others that you're selling on, or should we move on to the teams you might be buying into for the rest of the season?
I'd rather move it to the buys because I'm gonna be honest. I really struggled with the sells. The other one that I kind of was going to point out was the Browns, but I don't really want to linger on that. That team always was kind of suffering from a talent deficit, and they just always overachieved because their GM is amazing and probably the most knowledgeable, GM in the league about the way the game works. So, that's they're a sell only in that we just always assume they're going to be good, and they weren't. So I don't think that we nearly need to delve too deeply into that.
Yeah. So who have you got on your buy list? Who do you want to kick off with?
All right, so the kickoff on my buy list is going to be the New York Jets. I think I've said this before. I think the only reason that they've underperformed in the past was because of injuries. Matt Ryan, quite frankly, frightens me. Last year when I finally got the team rolling, I think that he's I want to say right before I got the team on that final win streak, he was the last QB to just absolutely torch us. And we may have won that game, I believe. I think we squeaked it out, but he still torched us. So that's, he's a good quarterback. Like, there's just not another, he's about to hit 2,000 yards. He's up at 17. Looking now, he's at 1775. Yeah. This funny year in American history. Made me think of that, the election coming up. It's close to 1776. But, that's, really good yardage. I'm not sure how he's doing with his regular career numbers because, again, with our whole theme of improving the team around you, I did think that the Jets and their offensive talent did take a slight step back, but I think that their defense took a slight step forward. So that's kind of reflected in the numbers. His completion percentage went up. I think they did improve at the wide receiver position, but his overall rating went down. And their defense looks like it's improved this year. So that kind of goes in line with what I thought was going to happen. But I just really think that this division was going to come down between the Patriots and the Jets showed more that they'd kind of got an idea of how to win in the game. And I think that that's being reflected in their really strong season start.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's interesting is that it seems like whilst Matt Ryan's numbers are up and down in certain categories, it seems like they're almost letting him throw the ball a lot more. Which means his accuracy is actually up. And the Jets passing offense is the best passing offense in the league at the minute. So that has just unleashed this team from being probably a team that's struggled traditionally and had injuries, as you said, to actually being a threat in that American East now. 5-2.
But they let some offensive linemen go, and so when you slide a little bit down, he's already been sacked 13 times.
Yeah.
Like that's he's probably that's on. We're barely halfway through the season. So he's probably going to end up somewhere around like 26, 27.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Let's hope he actually, makes it to the end of the season again.
Yeah, I mean that offensive line is not good. So it's impressive that they're managing to pass the ball so effectively.
I might
Probably
be
down
wrong,
to the
but I
fact
think
that
I think their offensive line is where the Jaguars got theirs from. But I could be wrong on that. But I think that's where those players went.
Yeah, I mean, interesting. At 5-2 though, I mean, you look at the remaining games. They've still got to play the Ravens, the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Panthers, yourselves, and the Saints. They've got a really tough running. So yeah, I can see them holding on. I think the biggest one will be that game 12 against the Patriots. At 4, Patriots are 4-3. They're 5-2. They could be similar records around at that point. I completely ignore me. They've got to play the Patriots next sim on Sunday. So that's probably the biggest game then, if I had to say anything. That could make or break their season for both teams, actually.
Yeah, because you have to think in the AFC, if the Patriots gets 4 losses, that might be a wrap.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I guess the question to ask any of these teams that we're buying, when we're talking about them in terms of buying because they're performing well and looks like they could win a division or make the playoffs, is how far do you see this Jets team going this season?
That's the question. I'm always hesitant. I'm always hesitant to say teams that haven't been to the playoffs yet are going to do well in the playoffs because, as you know, in any sport, it's just, the game changes. Someone can specifically game plan for you instead of, just running maybe like their general settings, or if they've gotten in the groove, maybe they just, don't want to touch things. But when you're actually, going back and you're looking at all the plays that team runs and looking at what they do on first down or second down or third down, and actually making your adjustments, the game changes. So I'm really interested in that. And also I want to see Matt Ryan make it a full season because he hasn't done it. He hasn't done it in a while.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I'm willing to buy them. But this would be, I'm not sure if I would put them as I wouldn't make them a part of one of my main money bets. I might slide them I might slide them into a parlay just to see if I hit.
Yeah. But, I'm kind of with you on that one. I think we'll see. If we move on to a team that I've got to buy, it's also in the American East, and it's probably the similar reasons. It's the New England Patriots. We say this about the Patriots every single season. Rizzo, if you ever watch a podcast, you're going to be so bored of myself saying this, but they probably are one of the most talented teams in this league. And when Rizzo finally works out how to make this team efficient, this team is going to win a Super Bowl. I'm going to say it for the next 20, 30 seasons, I think, at this rate. But
the same intonation, phrasing, and everything. The deja vu I just got right now was like it almost, gave me a dissonance in my head.
I say this every season. That's why I say this every season. At the beginning of the season, I say this every season when we get to this halfway point, and I'm saying it again now. This team is just so talented, and I mean, some of the losses. I mean, they lost the Bills. We've talked about. They lost the Browns. Okay, you can understand they lost the Browns and the Ravens, two deep teams, or a team with a really talented GM. So I can understand that. But they've got the remaining 8 games they've got. I mean, they should be getting up to at least 12 wins, if I'm being honest. So, we talked about the Jets, but the Falcons, the Steelers, the Broncos is the tough one, really, and the Saints is a tough one, and Jaguars. But the remaining games are all winnable games. And to be honest, I wouldn't expect them to lose all 3 of the games against the Saints, the Jaguars, and the Broncos. They should, if they want to be a contender, they should be winning 2 of those 3, if I'm perfectly honest.
Oh, no. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and with this roster and how talented it is, they should be beating 2 of these 3 teams this season. So I'm buying into them because I have confidence that Rizzo will hopefully get this team sorted and just propel up the league. Is what I'm saying. I haven't seen it happen yet, but I just, it's interesting because this is the first season that the Patriots have really struggled in their own division since the CSFL started. So they're not just winning it based on talent; they're actually being challenged based on strategy and playbook. And I think that's where they're coming unhinged. But I think I have confidence in Rizzo to resolve that and put the Patriots back on the map.
So I'm gonna start with two things. The first one, I would like to make a retraction. After looking at the standings a bit longer and doing the math in my head, 4 losses may not be the end of the world right now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 3-win teams and 1, 2, 3 2-win teams, and I'm the only 1-win team. So, that those 2 wild cards are still out there for you. So, with that in mind, I guess there's you're telling me there's a chance. With that being said, I'm just really hesitant to say that with him having to play the Jets twice, the Broncos, and the Saints, that they're going to win 3 out of 4. I kind of see that maybe going 2 out of 4. And at that point, they have 4 losses, and they're hoping that some other teams haven't gotten on win streaks as well. And so that 4 losses might get to sneak them in on the wild card. And I will say this, if they do get on the wild card, then I will,
that would be the best.
You say if Rizzo has figured it out, then we're all in trouble, which
that would be the most deadliest wild card team out there comfortably.
Yeah, I think, I'm fine for a bye week right now. So, that being said, I do think that some of the access that the 21 version of the game has given us to seeing what the average play gets you in our playbooks has helped a few of us kind of refine what was working for us. I think a lot of teams, while we do runs, a lot of us have some of the same plays. I think that there's a lot that have become popular in the league. I do think that the differences in our offensive strategies are probably, where our bread is buttered. And I think that he's finally figured out what plays work for his offense, because his last 3 games have resembled more of the way a contender would beat a team than the way just a more talented team would beat a team.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I'm really looking at that. I'm really looking at that Panthers win. Like that was a legitimate quality win. That they did that on the road in Carolina. So if they I think they'll split possibly with the Jets, and I think that they'll probably split the Broncos or the Saints. And so I'm wondering if that'll still be enough to get them the wild card. And I'm sorry to have taken some time with that, but that's
it's nice for you to just lay it out like that. And I think it's making me think whether it's possible. I still think it is, because you said those last 2 games, and you can see that Rizzo's looked in the new version, used that to build a bit more of a refined playbook by the looks of it. And yeah, I'm all in. I think even if they get a wild card, I can still see them get into the Super Bowl. I don't think that's a challenge for them with that roster. So
I'm gonna do this because this is for Rizzo the person, because every Laker bit of fandom inside of me, for those who don't know, I'm a huge Lakers fan, hates me for what I'm about to say, but Boston luminary, God, Kevin Garnett once said, anything is possible, or nothing is impossible, or whatever the hell he screamed to the sky.
Yeah.
Won that championship. So
I agree.
There you go, brother.
And I think just coming back to the strategy point, I think one of the great things about this game is that, and we are seeing, is that it's not just a case, whatever people want to say, it's not just a case of putting down the top 5 plays in a playbook and it will work for any team. You can see that when you look at the teams that are winning, their playbooks are so completely different. And the strategy, you can tell by the way they play in the play-by-play, they're completely different. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. And hopefully the new data in the new game finally getting touchdowns and interceptions for plays. My goodness me, that was hard to get in. Will help any new GMs or GMs that have been struggling to try and understand what is working well for their team or not working well for their team. So I'm excited to see that in the new game. So we move on to another bye. So one team that I've got next, and I'll keep it with it. I've got two more left, really. One I think deserves a bit of credit, and one that I think we'll talk about after that, which I think is a penny stock buy, if I'm honest. So the first team I want to talk about is the Washington football team, who are 4-3. They're top of their division at the moment against the Giants, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. And talk about taking advantage of some teams who have been struggling or had injury issues. They've blown up this year, and at 4-3, they look like they're in great shape to try and take this division. And I have to say, this man here, Terrell Pryor, what a fantastic pickup he was in the draft for the Redskins. Yep. Trading in to get him. He looks like he could be rookie of the year at this rate.
I was going to say that's another potential candidate for GM of the year, the way he manipulated the draft. But
absolutely.
I would hold the brakes on the rookie of the year because I have a starting running back rookie who is having quite the great year too. But that's cool. Terrell's having a fantastic season.
But in terms of impact on the team from a rookie, this man has had a fantastic impact on this team so far.
No, all joking aside, he has an 8-to-1 pass to interception ratio. That's top notch.
Yeah. I mean, he's and the team's 4-3. They look like they're making progress on both sides of the ball, and they've got some notable wins. I mean, they beat the Packers, which was a massive upset, I have to say, and then they managed to beat the big thing about if you ever want to be a playoff team is you've got to beat the teams in your division, and they beat the Cowboys, they beat the Giants, they've got the job done in the first half of this season. Going into the second half, they are in a really strong position to try and take this division title now.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that you're right there in the pole position. If you look at they are actually just having a really good record so far against their conference. They're 4-2 against their conference, 3-0 at home. So I'm hoping we don't regret this in 3 weeks because they have they're 1-3 on the road and they're about to go to Philly, Indianapolis, and they're visiting your Lions. So I'm not the nicest of schedules, but on the same side, they only have one road game after week 12.
Yeah,
and they're again a strong home team. So
yeah, and I think they'll take this division this year. I really do. I think even if they, they go 1-3 on those remaining 3 road games, I think at home against some of the teams they've got to play, the Eagles, the Rams, Titans, Jaguars could be split possibly. They might nick one there. Then the Buccaneers and the Cowboys. I think just by winning their division games, that's going to be enough to put them into the playoffs this year. And that's a fantastic achievement from where this team was last year, where they were bottom of the pile, top seeded for the draft, didn't win the draft, end up trading around all over the place in the draft to get some of these players, and they just look like they're in great shape at this stage.
No, I buy that. I definitely buy that. And I'm kind of looking at their roster, and I think they could be better. I'm a little surprised that they're not playing Jonathan Stewart at all. It looks like he's only got 98 attempts and 300 and something yards on the season. So I don't know if they're really rushing the ball with him. I'm not, because that would by my quick math put him very far off for his career attempts average. Well, not extremely far off, but pretty far off. So they have a lot of upside if they can figure out how to get him incorporated more in the offense. He's not performing up to his normal standards. No, I think he is starting. I think he's just really not having that great of a season.
I guess they're not running the ball that much, or maybe Pryor's running the ball a little bit more, maybe to balance it off. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah, I've never looked to see if he has the dual threat, but he does have 36 attempts on the season. Let me compare him with another dual threat quarterback or someone else who runs the ball a lot, and we will see if he's approaching what they have. Yeah, he's
I I'm pretty sure he's a dual threat quarterback. I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah. I'm looking at. I just looked at Kaepernick and Vince, and they're both around 40. So
Yeah.
no, he's running the ball as much as a dual threat. So maybe that's where they're making up the extra yardage.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure it out. But man, Pryor's completing almost 70% of his passes. That's gold.
He looks really good, and he looks like he's going to be a really solid starting quarterback. And I'll throw it out now. It's too early prediction and too early to say this, but he might end up being a better player than Andrew Luck in our league if this carries on.
Yeah,
which is a crazy thing to say. But
no, wow! And just imagine when they finally figure out how to harness that speed, like 89 speed, 71 agility. He's not. He's still going to take. He's going to probably be more of a Donovan McNabb when it comes to getting sacked in the pocket. But when he gets out of the pocket, if he gets a lane,
oh yeah, you ain't going to catch him.
No, he's getting in the red zone. This game has a funny way of chasing down people at the 1 yard line, but he'll probably get there.
Yeah.
So I'll buy that. Was that your penny stock?
That wasn't my penny stock. I've got a better penny stock than that. One that is low.
I would buy some Redskins stock. So
I would definitely. So I'll throw it back to you before I go to my final one. With who else do you have on your buy list?
So you know what? This isn't really a crazy buy because they have probably in just pure talent the best quarterback in the entire league. But I'm buying the Packers this year. I don't care that they're 6-2 and that you have the division. I know that you two will probably hash it out, and honestly, I look at that as a coin flip. I think that's literally a 50-50 game. I think you're both equally talented in different ways. But I'm buying them going, and I think that whichever one of you wins that game is going to make it to the Super Bowl. I think that I don't think the Saints have the juice this year. I think that it's going to be the Lions or the Packers, and that team is just so talented. They have the talent that we look at New England and say this is what you should be doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you on the Packers and the New England comparison, actually. They had another great offseason. They went into the offseason and you thought, oh my goodness me, they're losing so much talent. They managed to just acquire talent through free agency in the draft, and they're basically just as strong as they were last year, but they actually have a longer title winning period possibly in them now. I think we've played them already twice in the first half of the season, which is odd. But yeah, the first game was a close game, 1 point in it. Second game was a close game. I think they had a game, possibly the game winning. They had the ball in their hands with the last 2.5 minutes left and just couldn't get it done. So it is neck and neck. I can see them fully going in the wild card like the Cardinals were last year and just plowing through everybody to the Super Bowl.
And to that extent, I can see the Washington doing that too. I can see them getting there, and prior just, the year that I made the playoffs, Vince started breaking off runs and it was nothing. Some players might just play better. I don't know if this is similar to the basketball game where I'm pretty convinced that some players do just play better in the playoffs. They play closer to their ratings or slightly outperform them. There may be something similar here. So, a guy like Terrell Pryor might have a Cardinals-like run next year. He might be the next, Skelton coming out, throwing for 300 and rushing for 100, a la, just a hot run. And I could easily see that happening too. So, the Packers, the NFC is looking really good this year.
Yeah. And I could understand the Packers buying in because at the position they are now, even if they go into a wild card, the odds are still going to be pretty tasty for them to make the Super Bowl. So I can certainly see that on odds, definitely. So the final team that I've got is, as I said, this penny stock, and it probably is because it'd probably be the lowest share in the entire league at this point, and that is the 0-8 Oakland Raiders. And I'm buying into this. So I had a little look, before we came onto this, and just always interesting to see the teams that are struggling and trying to understand why they are struggling, and whether it's due to strategy or due to depth or talent or whatever it is. But the Oakland Raiders, they have had one of the most difficult first 8 games I can ever remember in the CSFL. So they've played. I'll just list the 8 teams for you quickly here: the Jaguars, the Colts, the Chiefs, the Titans, the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Packers, and the Broncos. That is probably the single hardest 8 games of any team in this league. All of those, apart from the Colts, are all in playoff contention at this point, and even the Colts are 4-4. So they haven't played a losing team yet this season, which is absolute madness, and they're 0-8 because of it. And we know the Raiders are a team that's historically struggled, had GM issues and whatnot. But when I look at the games they've got remaining, because they've played these first 8 games, they've got to play the Chargers, the Texans, the Chargers again, the Bills, the Bears, the Lions, the Bengals, and the Vikings. So only one team with a winning record left to play. So I could comfortably see the Raiders winning possibly 3 or 4 games out of that, going for 0.500 in those games against teams that are, in an equal footing for them in terms of where they are in terms of talent and strategy, etc. And add to that Lynch is having a really pretty strong season. And even against some of the teams where they've played, some of these really talented teams, they've pushed them quite far. So they only lost by 4 to the Colts, lost by 7 to the Titans, 9 to the Chiefs, and 7 to the Packers. And I think, if I remember right, all of those games were down to the last quarter as well. So they were in the game until the last quarter. So for me, if that's a penny stock, I'm buying as much of that as I can get hold of, because the only way is up, and the actual remaining 8 games, for me, I can see the Raiders picking up some wins.
Oh, I can see that. I could definitely see that. So, looking at the Raiders, I did not realize, because I'm just staring at them now like that. I thought my schedule last year was bad, and it was, but that's just 8 weeks of madness right there.
Yeah. That is like a gauntlet, the CSFL gauntlet challenge, that is, because you're basically playing 2 Super Bowl winners in there. A team that we probably think will be in the Super Bowl this year, possibly in the Jaguars. The Chiefs, who are unbelievably underrated in the CSFL and always overperform. And then the Packers, who probably might be in the Super Bowl or contending this year. So it's just, I don't know how they do the schedule in this game, but that is a horrible schedule, and I can see them performing much better against some of the teams that will be in and around where their record will be this season as well. So I'm excited to see this, and I have to say they had a really good pickup in the draft in Hogan when I was looking as well, who is just performing really, really well for them in terms of just receiving the ball. I mean, they don't throw the ball a lot, the Raiders, as you'd probably expect. They don't have many receiving options, but Chris Hogan's looking like a good prospect for them. And Lynch is having a pretty good season. He's on course for probably one of his best seasons he's had in the CSFL, because he's been so badly underutilized by other GMs. I think the only way is up for the Raiders. They're 0-8. The only way is going to be up. But I think they're going to go up quicker than most people anticipate the rest of this season.
Yeah, no, it's a shame they don't have their first round pick like that. That just, I don't know a better way to say it, man. It's just a shame they don't have their first round pick.
Yeah.
But I think that they are definitely a team that's on the up and up. Looking at them a little bit deeper now. It's crazy that they, Averill, Baker, and Barnum, 3 really good players, are out for the season right now. So that roster could be a little better. Pasinger is a good player too. And, even though they don't have that first round pick, having a second round pick, back-to-back third round picks, a 5th and a 6th, that's not necessarily a totally bad deal. And they can move some of these players that maybe aren't in that window. Some of the maybe these, latter 30-year-old players who aren't superstars. Because, you do want to keep a few like really good veterans on your team, just, and going into the next game. For those of you who don't know it, there is a new aspect of the game where you have mentoring. So, you may want to start keeping around some of those, washed out vets who actually have like player tags and who have really good intangibles and things like that, because they're going to be able to mentor players in a wide range of things. Like some of them I saw were like friendliness and community, and there's just a whole wide range of values of things that they could be mentored on. So that might be something that we really come to like in the league that's coming up. So keeping that in mind, maybe hold on to some of these vets, maybe let go of some of these guys that you can get a bushel of picks for, and just keep on plugging along. I think that your assistant GM really did them a solid in the brief time that he was there, coming up with a really strong plan and then giving it to their current GM. And I give credit to their current GM for having the open-mindedness and humility to take someone else's plan and go, this might be a good idea, and actually follow it. So it took it on both sides, and they might have something there.
Yeah, and I would say that for any new GM who joins the league who has not been in a multiplayer league or never played this game before, the approach that the Raiders GM has taken, I think, has really helped him, because I think he's reached out to a few different vets across the league who have won Super Bowls in the league or played in these kinds of leagues for draft day sports, pro football for years, and sought their advice for different things. And I know that's definitely helped him in terms of understanding, in terms of how to look at things. And I'm hopeful that the Raiders will demonstrate that some of that learning might come a bit earlier than everyone anticipates for the remaining 8 games they've got. So that's why I'm buying into them. So have you got one final team for us, or are you exhausted your list now?
I'm going to take one last look, because I did have a few I was tossing around in my head, but honestly, I think I'm pretty comfortable with the ones that I put forward. I think that those were good, interesting selections, and some of the rest that are left are rather obvious buys, and that kind of takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the remaining teams have got different question marks, and they could. I think a lot of the ones we haven't mentioned could go either way.
My honorable mention would be the Kansas City Chiefs. If they get a hold of the I think the 15-player long injury list it was last week.
Stupidly long list. Yeah,
if they could get a grip on that, maybe I think that they could actually be a team that really upsets some people, because their schedule is not the easiest, but it's not the hardest either. They have the Broncos, the Jets, the Packers, and then the Broncos again left. But they also play the Browns, who are very intelligent GM, the Vikings, who I'm not sure who their GM is right now, so apologies to them. And the Jets, and the Bears, who I think are rebuilding as well. God, I can't think of the Vikings GM. Are they open or?
No, the Vikings I think it's Bardock West, I believe.
Bardock West. I apologize, Bardock.
I think he's Bardock. I think he's in the college league as well. So I think he is an experienced GM in that sense.
Okay.
But just the Vikings have just, similar to other teams, they've just had a bit of neglect in the past few seasons, and a bit of a rebuilding job for him there, I think.
But man, no, the Chiefs, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys still out.
Yeah. It's a tough one, and some key guys there as well. So,
oh man, it looks like Wilkerson, instead of being out for the season, might actually make it back though. That's huge.
He might, yes, he might. And based on the game, he may well be playing quarterback, and he'll be the key offensive threat. It amazes me sometimes, but okay. So I think we're kind of wrapped up now. We've done our buys and ourselves, and I think perhaps we can just finish off with something that we started at the beginning, where we kind of said that the league parity is certainly coming into play now. There's not as many teams this year that are running away with things. Last year we had 2 unbeaten teams at this stage. We don't have an unbeaten team at this stage anymore. And I think if you look at every single division, there's at least two teams that are close in competing. And I think if you look at maybe 3 or 4 of the divisions, it could be even closer. It could be any team pretty much, which is fantastic to see.
American North and the National East that are both within a game.
Yeah. it's just madness. So I think that's fantastic to see that it is such a competitive league now, and hopefully it continues the remaining 8 games.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the tail end of the season. I think that we're going to see a lot of interesting strategies. Which teams are going to pull ahead and try to shut down early, or which teams are going to have to literally start fighting every week for their playoff life. And it's I'm really enjoying this season, and it's it's not just because my team's finally on the road again.
Yeah.
But, shouts out to you over there, man. We can call this the I don't knock on wood, we can call this our CSFL leading podcast, because we're both 7-1, buddy.
Well, I need to win a title first. Once I win a title, then we can rename it the Championship Podcast, and we'll just leave it there. But no. Seriously aside, it's been great to see how teams have been progressing, and GMs have been putting in the time and effort to do that, and that's really just fantastic to see. And I think what we'll do is we'll obviously probably come back, I think, at the end of next week and look at trade deadline and see what transactions and deals have been completed, and maybe just cast our eye over that, because it seems like the market's picking up slowly over the past few days, and we'll come back and review that then.
Yeah, we don't have just a one-person trade market going on.
We do at the moment, but who knows what's going to happen.
Yep. So I hope everyone enjoyed the pod today, because I definitely did, and I'm going to keep trying to break the 2021 system, apparently. And
yeah, no, hopefully, who knows? We might get some more features in 2021 before we get there as well. Let's hope so.
Hopefully.
But it's great to have you on, Josh.
All right, thank you, man.